Hi, it's Loren Lockman, coming to you from the Tanglewood Wellness Center in Costa Rica. There's an old Sanskrit saying that says, 1 meal a day you're a saint, 2 meals a day you're a cripple, 3 meals a day you're an invalid. There are people who have always argued that they're better off grazing, that we're better off grazing. And I've always said no. I've always said you're better off eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're satisfied. Which means typically 4 or 5 bananas, 5, 6, 8 peaches, 3 or 4 big mangoes, a big chunk of watermelon. It doesn't mean 1 apple. It doesn't mean you're going to eat 45 calories and how are you going to be satisfied with that? You're not. And so if you eat 1 apple, you're going to be hungry again in an hour. You're going to eat another apple. But all day long, your digestive tract is working. It never gets a chance to really rest. And nothing takes more energy than processing food through the system. So I believe we're always better off eating until we're satisfied and then stopping and waiting until we're actually hungry again. If we do that, we're never going to eat more than 3 times in a day. As long as we're actually in touch with our hunger, because most people are eating at least half the calories they consume. Some people are probably eating all the calories they consume, not because they're hungry, but because they're bored, angry, tired, lonely. It's lunchtime. Somebody else is eating. All these other reasons, right? If we don't eat for any of those reasons, or, here's a good one, because they feel hungry in the stomach, which remember is the anti-hunger, right? That's not only not hunger, that's a strong message from your body that it doesn't want food because it's trying to cleanse or heal. So if we stop eating for any of those reasons, and only when we're actually hungry, we're going to eat a lot less often, and we're going to eat a lot less food, and we're only going to eat 2, maybe 3 times a day. Okay, so there's actually research that just came out that showed that eating throughout the day, small meals, same number of calories taken throughout the day by grazing all day long, dramatically increases the amount of belly fat. That we're better off eating 2 or 3 large meals, and the Sanskrit, they would say 1 meal a day is best. And by the way, there's a lot of ancient wisdom around this. There's another saying that goes, man lives on 1/4 of what he eats. On the other 3/4 lives his doctor. Okay? And here's the great thing about this. This is an inscription from an Egyptian pyramid.
Oh, wow.
And I think the pyramids were built, at least 20 or 30 years ago. Maybe longer than that. This goes back thousands of years. This is not a new idea. Now, back then, Egyptian pyramid was a fitting place for this to be. Why? Well, who had doctors back then? The same people who had the luxury of eating 4 times more food than they needed. The wealthy. You see, back in those days, only wealthy people contracted heart disease and diabetes and became obese and had all the related conditions, because only wealthy people could afford to eat so well, quote unquote well, right? Only wealthy people could do that. These diseases are diseases of affluence. They're diseases that occur because people eat too much. Talking again about the amount of calories, all those people out there encouraging you to overeat, it's ridiculous. Think of this. The people on the planet who've lived the longest consume roughly half as many calories as the average American. If eating more was better, how come these people aren't the shortest lived people? They're not. It's always been true. You want to live longer, you eat less food. Now, don't restrict your calories. Don't walk around in pain being hungry. Allow your body to become more efficient. Okay, don't overeat. Overeating, if you have metabolic elasticity, up your metabolic rate, so you have to eat more. Don't do that. Okay? What happens if you don't have metabolic elasticity? You get fat. All the people who were booted off the sites that have always encouraged you to overeat, those posts weren't allowed to stay there. They're the ones who gain weight. Because it doesn't, some people, you can't gain weight eating fruit. Sure you can. I've worked with many people who've gotten overweight eating fruit. You're nodding your head. You have some experience with this? People you know?
Yeah.
You personally? Yeah. It happens. It happens. It's real simple. If you consume more calories than you're burning, you're going to gain weight. If you speed up your metabolism, that's much harder to do. Well, that seems like a good thing then, except for one little detail. The faster your metabolism, the faster you age and die. Oops. Maybe it's not so healthy after all. No, it's absolutely not. And all the research has always said the same thing. Eat less, live longer, okay, and be healthier. Now, obviously, you can undereat. This is not an argument for anorexia. Okay, do I look anorexic to you guys that are here? No. I'm asking you because you've all seen me with my shirt off. If you're watching this, you might not have. Now, if you're seeing my face with only 5% body fat, you might be thinking too skinny. I'm not too skinny. I've got a small frame, but I've got pretty well built. This is not an argument for anorexia. This is an argument to simply listen to your body and stop when your body's satisfied. Don't overeat. As you cleanse and heal your body, and as you improve the quality of food going into your body and allow yourself to become better hydrated, you will need fewer calories because you'll be able to use what you have as efficiently as possible. So imagine for a second that the average person, the average American, for instance, the average American male now consumes roughly 3,500 calories a day. The average American female, roughly 2,800 calories a day. But think about the average American person. This roughly 3,000 for both genders calories they're consuming is made largely of food that have been cooked or processed in some way, which means much of the value of the food has been destroyed in the processing. So the value is not there to be obtained by the body, and the body may not be very efficiently obtaining whatever value is still left because it's toxic and inefficient and dehydrated and not functioning very well. So what happens now when we take that same body and we make it as efficient as possible? How do we do that? By fasting. And fasting once is incredibly powerful for 26 days or 21 days or 40 days. Incredibly powerful. What happens if you do it 2 or 3 or 4 times? It becomes even more powerful. Okay? We get more efficient. So get your body as clean and efficient as possible, and then only consume the real whole foods that our bodies are designed for. We can't do better than mono meals because as soon as we combine things in a blender, we're not only impairing your digestion because we're not chewing the food and not creating that process in the mouth, but we're blending things up so the body can't possibly digest each component as well because it needs to have each component individually, as always happens in nature. Animals in nature, you watch the cats. The cats here eat birds and mice and insects and maybe lizards, but they never ever make a bird, mice, insect, lizard stew. Okay? They don't do that. They have one thing at a time. Okay? Every species does. It's only humans that mix all this stuff up. If we eat only mangoes, what happens? We don't overeat. We're going to optimize our digestion of mangoes. At the next meal we have only watermelon, we're going to optimize our digestion. So when our system is as clean and well-functioning as possible, and our food is all food where all the nutrients are intact because it hasn't been processed or blended or juiced in any way, all the nutrients are intact, and we're eating it one thing at a time, now we're able to get the most benefit from everything we're consuming. And what happens as a result of doing that? We need less food. And so I went from, at the age of 21, 22, a cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy, eating a dozen fried eggs and a half a pound of bacon, and a whole huge heaping plate of fried potatoes, and a stack of pancakes, and a big bowl of grits every single morning for breakfast, to eating nothing for breakfast. I've had nothing to eat today. I have nothing to eat most days until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And maybe I eat a papaya, and then I eat a watermelon, and that's it for the day. Later on, that's it for the day. It's a lot less food than I was eating today. Over the course of the day, I eat less food than I ate at any one meal. when I was 20 years old. And my body's the same size, except it now works better, is more functional, is stronger than it was when I was 18. Okay? So, just be clear that no matter how much you might want to believe it would be good for you to eat as much as possible, there's no science, there's no logic, and there's no experience that supports it. Now, there are people out there who say, yeah, but look at these people, look how lean and pretty they are, eating all those calories. Well, sure. Tell you what, you can eat anything you want, most people, and work out 2 hours a day, intensely, and still have a beautiful body. One thing is not related to the other. Okay? Remember, fitness does not equal health. They're two different things. They're not the same. I told some of you here, I don't think you two were here yet, I told the rest of you here about a client I had a few years ago who was a nationally ranked tennis player in England. Okay? And his favorite food? Was he fit? Was he in shape? Absolutely. He was a top athlete. One of the top tennis players in the country. Well, he must have had an optimal diet then, right? Yeah. If you think McDonald's is optimal, then he had an optimal diet because he lived primarily on McDonald's, his favorite food. This is not surprising. There are many athletes who eat very poorly. Many of the fittest, most beautiful bodies you see are not healthy people. They're fit people. They're two different things. Okay? Fitness comes from making sure, A, that you are consuming, that you are using at least as many calories as you're consuming so you're not overweight, and then it's working your body to develop muscle and maintain fitness. But you can do that eating anything. Most professional athletes do not eat a healthy diet. They might eat healthier than some people, but they might eat poorly. They might live on pizza and hamburgers and fried potatoes. Because they can do that if they exercise. They'll still be strong. Will they be healthy that way? No, they won't. But fitness and health are two different things. Okay? I hope this makes sense. Any questions about this before we end this? Does this make sense to you guys? All right, I hope it makes sense to you too. Take care.